What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Acura Audio Garage, and today we continue the TSX DIY Pro Series. This is a bonus video, so if you've been sticking around, you know we have one video left with the 6-channel amp. Before we get there, this is something that is always brought up when you have an Acura. Hey, I don't have navigation. Can I convert my Acura to navigation? And my first question to you is why? And my next thing to say to you is don't do it. But if you are going to do it, here's some information that is going to help you a lot. So first things first is we have a 2004 Acura TSX. This didn't come with navigation. This had this regular stock radio. We took the navigation system. This is the screen from a 2005. This is the navigation drive from a 2008. So they can work together. If you have an 04 to 06, you can switch the drive with 07 to 08. Just know they're going to be an extra plug for your camera that the 04 and 06 won't have. But here it is. It's working. My actual navigation isn't working, but I can view my audio settings, so I can change all this stuff around. I have my little sub screen going. I have my AC. When I say sub screen, I mean the screen up here has the time, and it is changing with the radio station. And if I put the temperature, let me turn this on, it tells me my temps. So all this is working. I have this weird harness here, and then we have some CAN bus lines to the PCM. So if you're interested, I'm gonna explain this to you in detail, the parts you're gonna need, and we're gonna break down what the navigation system consists of, because even though this is working and I have my GPS antenna, I don't have the right CD, so drive and CDs will get your navigation working. Also, I don't have the microphone. Don't have the steering wheel control switch. So there are a couple components here that are missing that we need to take care of. Can swap from navigation to non-navigation. So if you have this screen, it doesn't work. You can swap to the regular radio. So as long as it's the same year, you can swap from non-navigation to the basic radio and get a nice little climate control. If you want to fix your navigation or use it for something else, then you're going to want to stick around. I'm going to cover all the harnesses, all that stuff. First, I want to give you an overview of what the actual navigation system is comprised of. So here's my little diagram. I have the actual screen. I showed this to you. Then you have the ECM or PCM, which is behind the screen. So I'll show you in the car. Actual display unit, ECM, PCM is down there. Steering wheel, you have your voice control switch. Then of course you have your GPS antenna, then the DVD drive, and lastly your microphone. So what we don't have in our build are these two components. We don't have the microphone, that would go up there, and we don't have the voice control switch, which would go on our steering wheel. But this is for the 04 TSX navigation. We want to put an 08 TSX navigation system into our 04 TSX. So let's look at what that comes with. Now we move on to the 08 TSX navigation system. Same thing, we have our display, the ECM, the sub display. This time you have the hands-free control unit, which is part of the navigation system because it is part of the HFL voice control switch. Also, you can tell the navigation to do things or the car to do things. So you can go hit the button and go, hey, turn down the temperature, and it will do that. So part of that switch, you have the GPS antenna, we have the actual navigation unit, we have the XM receiver / antenna, and then we have our microphone. So basically our difference is going to be, we now have the XM receiver, we have the hands-free control unit, and a different switch, and of course the microphone. We also, which isn't shown here, is the backup camera. Let me see if I can pull up that diagram. I'm interrupting this real quick because I learned that the 07 and 08 TSX doesn't have a factory backup camera. So you can add an aftermarket backup camera. We have the harnessing to do so. We have the camera that goes here. And now after this video, the harness that plugs into here will enable you to use the backup camera. The way that works is you just throw it in reverse, and there you go. So if you're interested in that harness, it's going to be listed on our website. It's going to probably be like Acura TSX camera integration harness or something like that. I'm going to jump back into the video. Guess who learned that the TSX 07 to 08 doesn't have a backup camera? I didn't know that. It has a backup camera input. I'm going to show it to you. We're going to get it to work. but it doesn't come standard with the backup camera. So if you are looking for a backup camera for your navigation, we do have the license plate light backup camera, and we'll sell you the connector and everything so that you can plug it into your navigation system. If you want to see that, stick around. I'll show it to you like middle end of the video. Right now I'm going to continue with the navigation system breakdown. So let me just show you real quick what this means. So remember, this car doesn't have navigation from the factory. The harnesses that we have connected to our GPS are video right here, and this is CAN bus and audio bus. So this takes care of the touchscreen, this takes care of our CAN bus communication down there, and then this is power and also your backup light trigger. What we have connected so far allows us to do this. So I can control the AC, you can see I can control the fan speed, turn this on, turn this off, change the location, etc. So that's working. I can go into audio, I can go FM, AM, CD changer. I can also go into the sound options. Jesus. So I can come in here and mess with all of these and stuff. And then obviously my volume and all the information shows on my sub display. I can get into my setup menu. Obviously I can't get into the navigation because the navigation doesn't actually work. The disc isn't in there. But I can get to this menu. I can go cancel, I can go to info. So we have a partially working navigation. We'll get it fully working by the end of the video. I wanted to show you quick what you would get if you decided to do this. I don't know why you would want to do this, honestly. If you have an older TSX and you want to put navigation in it, just go with an aftermarket radio, or even they have the Android radio. I think it would be a better solution than trying to hack this up. But hey, I'll leave that up to you. Let me get you some more information. I took everything out of the car so we can go over what connections, what harnesses, what plugs you're gonna need. So first things first, if you have a TSX and you want to grab this screen, the plugs are the same. They will plug right in from a non-nav to a nav. The only plug you won't have is this. Also, this is out of an 04, so I only have this plug and the plug down here. My radio in my car, let me just grab it. The non-navigation radio that I have is out of a 2007 because the radio that came in this car did not work. So we bought a used one and it has these extra plugs here, but still same. So you can swap from non-nav to nav. Just know that without this connector, nothing is going to show up on the screen. So obviously we'll talk about that next, but I just want to show you same connections on the screen, or I should say on the controls for the most part. When it comes to the screen, this 20-pin connector we'll talk about in a second. Then you have your sub display. This has a connector back here. This connector and the one for the sub display that's just a clock are the same connector. They run different lines, but when you swap them, it's a plug and play swap. So if you put this radio into a non-navigation and you just swap over the sub display from a navigation to a non-navigation, this is plug and play too. So far we're at plug and play with these two, but nothing's gonna show up here and only the radio information is gonna show up here. So you get this guy connected. This guy has a bunch of plugs. I'll walk you through them real quick. Primary power, CAN bus and video out, GPS antenna. Now this I have not been able to find a diagram of what it's for. I've seen it in other, like Hondas I think it's used, but I don't know what it's for. Maybe we'll do some discovery. Backup camera, this is left blank. Again, these two aren't used. They're meant for something else. I don't know what it is. This is my HFL and XM communication, as long as also with my microphone. So since I don't have the HFL switch and I'm not gonna buy one, and I don't have the XM unit and I'm not gonna buy one, and I don't have that upgraded microphone and I'm not gonna buy one, I am using pieces to help replace them. So I'm 90% sure I can adopt this microphone into the system. The HFL switch I don't have at all, but if you want to do it, you can buy it yourself. and the XM unit I don't have. I just put these for demonstration purposes. But if you were to buy all of this used, the entire navigation system, unless you're going to the junkyard to pick it yourself, if you're getting it off eBay, it is going to cost you some money. So this, I think, a pristine condition one you can find for like 300 bucks, 250. Maybe on the street marketplace you can find for 100. This was very hard to find, like 150 to 170. A working navigation drive with a CD is gold. It's going to be like 200 to 250. Then these little miscellaneous parts shouldn't be too expensive. It's just getting someone to remove them, or you removing them from the junkyard, because most of the time they're going to sell this piece with the steering wheel. They're going to sell the microphone with that entire piece up here, and the XM unit is going to be in the trunk. No, actually, where is it in this car? Let's see. Hands-free control unit is up there, but the XM receiver, yeah, XM receiver is in the trunk. So it's going to be in the trunk. So it's a lot of pieces to put together to get the full 100% functioning navigation system. And on top of that, you have to do a lot of harnessing. So for our harnesses, we don't sell any of these. This is a bonus video for you to attempt on your own for some information, some insight. All these harnesses are going to come from AliExpress or AliExpress. I'll show you where to get the connectors. I put links down in the description for you. But when it comes to making the harness, I'll show you where it starts and where it ends. But to figure out the rest is going to be on you. So let's start breaking down these connectors real quick. Start with the main power connection from the radio, which is going to be this guy. When you have navigation, the audio connector here gets 2 extra pins. The way you can add it to yours is by using the Honda Accord T harness to generate power. So I'll show you kind of what ours looks like here. So it plugs in and then gives you the plug. I'll put the part number and a screenshot here. Metro makes it. It's just a T harness for the Honda Accord, so it'll work the same here, but you are going to have to maneuver it and repin it and add pins. The pins you are going to add are 12 and 13. They are the route guidance pins. So if your navigation, you want it to make noise, you want it to go turn left here, turn right here, etc., or provide feedback to you, that is where the audio is going to go into the system, to the amplifier, to the speakers, into those 2 pins. Again, pins 12 and 13, which are going to end up being in this bottom row here. So that's, if you want route guidance, then that's something you're going to have to hook up. In our final demonstration, I'm going to show you at the end, that's not going to be hooked up. I don't care about route guidance. Then you have another connection, which is very important. This is hooked up. This is the bus connection, or audio bus connection, which goes here. This connection is what allows the touchscreen or the navigation drive to control the audio system. So you have the bus, you have the shield, then we have bus positive and bus negative. This plug also has the input for the XM radio. So you can see right audio positive, left audio positive, ACC to turn the XM unit on, and then negative and positive, and then a dim control for the navigation to dim itself, etc. So this connector, in our installation, we are not using the XM unit, so we are just using it for the display bus. So the only pins we are worried about are ground bus, bus positive, bus negative. And what we managed to do for this ghetto project is to wire that harness to a leftover harness that we had, and here you can see the connections I am talking about. So I'll show you where you can get that plug and how to add those pins later in the video. Let's move on now to the display of the navigation. The navigation unit display, display unit is what they call it, has a 20 pin connector. It's black, and here are the wires. So we have constant power, accessory power, have that audio bus we talked about before, the shield to the audio bus, then we have a display bus, then we have our RGB signal for video, then we have the more display bus, and then finally more RGB. So what that breaks down to is the connectors that come here output video to the screen. The video is sent over red, green, blue, and sync signal. Then you have the display bus that controls the audio system. So that was the connector down here. Those lines basically run up there for connecting the stereo to the display. So you can change audio, you can change the settings that I was changing, the bass, etc. You can change them from the screen or the radio. They talk to each other on that bus. Then you have the display bus, which is what talks from here to the navigation. So on this connector, all these pins are going to have to be pinned and hooked up, and you're going to run them to their dedicated locations. Some are going to go here and some are going to go here. Now we're going to move on to the sub display. The sub display is plug and play. The connector is the same, so you don't have to pin or unpin anything. It's just going to plug right in and show the proper information. So now let's move on to one of the most important pieces of the system, which is going to be the navigation actual brain. So if you want to use your navigation for the maps feature, so you don't care about, you want to use it for the climate control, you want to use it for the audio features, but you want to use that map for whatever reason. One of the very important connections for the map is VSS, and that's going to come out of here. So this connector right here where my finger is handles constant power. It also has accessory power. It has ground, has backlight, which is hooked up to the reverse light, which is 12 volts when the car is in reverse. Then you have your VSS, and then these are the two that get shorted. DIAG, positive and negative, gets shorted to put the navigation system into diagnostic mode. But very important, VSS, to make sure that when you can't reach a satellite, the car is in the correct location via VSS speed. And backlight if you want to do the backup camera that we are going to be talking about a little later on. So that's going to be this 8-pin connector, super important. Without it, the system's not going to even turn on. Next, we have this 20-pin connector, which if you're looking at this connector and this connector are the same one, they are pinned differently. So here we have red, green, shield, illumination, can high, display bus shield, display bus positive, blue signal, composite signal, signal ground, then you have can low, and then you have display bus. So all these right here run to this screen, except for I think 4 lines, which are going to be can high and can low, which is going to the PCM, which is going where VSS is going, which is going ultimately to the body control module there. Then you have your illuminations. I'm not 100% sure where they terminate, but we can tie them in here or up there. I have to see where it ends up working out, what illumination I want to tie in where. But your illumination, so when you turn on your headlights, the navigation system auto dims or changes the display to be darker. And then the last piece were the video and display bus. So in order for the touchscreen to work, this needs to be connected to here so that the display and the touchscreen work. Also, the RGBS video goes from here to actually show you what's on the screen. So those are the primary power and video connectors. The other ones you have are, they're obviously necessary, but they're not, I would say, as important if you're trying to piece the system together. So this green connector right here is going to have route guidance. So remember how I said earlier in the video, if you wanted to get audio from the navigation system to your speakers, then the audio comes out of here into here and through your amplifier to your speakers. So you have route guidance left and then right guidance ground. Then also you have your microphone inputs. So your microphone has positive and negative and shield that ends up here. And then you have your steering wheel control switch for the HFL or the navigation ends up here. So that is a resistive circuit. So when you press a button on the HFL switch, that line ultimately ends up here. The resistance changes. It knows to do, hey, the resistance is 100 on the circuit. They want to make a phone call. Hey, the resistance is 300. They want you to listen because they're going to tell you to lower the temperature, etc. So we'll explore that. Then you have the GPS antenna, which is this connector. Quick correction. So we covered all of these. What I've told you is right. What I told you before though, that this connector is not used, or I don't know what it's for, is wrong. This connector takes care of your HFL commands. So each pin is responsible for each command. So this is going to get used, this is going to get used, this will get used, this will get used, this will get used. The PCM, the connections you need to make are VSP, CAN high, CAN low. They're all on this third connection, which is furthest to the right. And here you have CAN high, then you have CAN low, then you have vehicle speed sensor, which is VSS. So here I'll give you a closer look. CAN high is pin 11, it's a white wire. CAN low is a red wire. And then VSS is a blue-white wire, all on the last connector of the PCM. Satellite radio, the XM unit, this is the connections. So you have constant power, accessory power, ground for the bus, then you have satellite shield, sat right, sat left. So these are the audio that's coming out of the satellite receiver and being routed to the system. Then you have bus, you have ground, and then you have positive and negative for it. So, and then your antenna. So if you want to add this, you're going to have to run more wiring to this, and this is how it gets pinned together. The HFL switch is the only thing I can't find definitive answers for, and the microphone. I'm going to try my best to see what kind of diagrams I can come up with. Steering wheel control switch, the information I managed to find isn't that great. It just tells you which wire is which, so I assume brown and gray are the ones you're going to need to add or figure out where they run to. It's not very good. What I will do is I will put a wiring diagram video playback. I don't know how to, I'm going to put the wire diagram on the screen. I'm going to pan through it and you can try to figure out where things go. But this isn't that very good. It's not very descriptive. And then the HFL unit for your phone, which isn't included in any of this. I don't have it represented. Here is the pinout for that. I am not too familiar with that. I wouldn't even bother hooking this up. Bluetooth, HFL, and Acuras are known to cause your battery to drain. If you want to figure those out, go ahead. Those are the diagrams. For the microphone, I could not find something solid to show to you. I am going to make this work, and maybe you can use that as well. These are pretty long, or you can get an extension, but all right, we'll see. So the next part of this is showing you where to get the connectors and how you're going to pin them. So I am going to now shift over to in front of the computer, not this one, like the computer where we can shop together, and I'll show you where to buy those things. For the backup camera, the connector obviously isn't shown on the TSX pinouts, but an 07 to 09 MDX is the same. So you have pin 1 is 8 volts camera power, then you have D5, which is video positive, and then you have D6, which is the shield and the camera ground, and then you have the adaptive camera. This needs to go to ground with a resistance between 100 and 150. So you need to put a resistor in line, and I'll show you that later on in the video. Alright, so I'm going to give you the part numbers and kind of what you can search, because what is going to end up happening is you are going to look at this video later on and this AliExpress link may not work. But here we have the primary connector that goes into the navigation and into the display unit. That's that 20 pin connector. Here's the part number. It's DJ7201C. So this is for 5 sets. You're gonna have to buy all 5. It is what it is. But that knocks down 2 connectors. Now we need to find the blue Honda Accord T harness to finish that first display. Honda Accord T harness, you're gonna need 2 harnesses. This is where you want to hook up power and ground for your navigation. My recommendation, so you don't have to go crazy, is to mount the navigation system below the passenger seat and then hide all your harnessing and put your antenna underneath the dash, and that'll be nice and sleek. It'll work, and you don't have to go into the trunk and run crazy long wires, etc. But it's all up to you. But here's the T harness. The T harness, this is the diagram of it. The reason why you need 2 parts is because this grabs all the speakers and doesn't terminate them, so you're going to end up with no audio. So what you're gonna have to do is grab this harness and add terminals so you can shove them in there, but you're not gonna have terminals. So what you're gonna want to do is pick up the 1721T, which is the T harness. This is so you don't have to mess with any of your factory wiring. You don't have to ruin any of your factory wiring. And then you're also going to pick up the 1721, which is the OEM harness. And you're going to use both to create one true T harness where all the wires go from one to the other. And you can wiretap whatever you need. You can wiretap illumination, accessory, power, etc. And you can add extra pins to this guy that plugs into the radio for that route guidance. So this step is annoying, but easily done. You're just connecting wires, and you're just color matching wires. So this step is necessary so that you have power to navigation, and so you can get that route guidance working. All right, so the first component we have covered. We have the black plug that's going to plug in for RGB and display, touch, signal, and that stuff. It's going to cover the display unit. Now we have the radio part covered. Now we need to move on to the navigation unit. I'm going to cover the actual wires you're going to use later on, but let's move on to the navigation unit connectors. Remember, the navigation unit also uses that 20 pin. So we found the 20 pin. We're now looking for our 8 pin, our 14 pin, and that 6 pin for the antenna. So for the 8 pin connector for the navigation, power, and I think what else? The backup signal and VSS was on there. Here it is. It's the 25022-18, and here's what it looks like. Has that white back. That's how you know this is the right one. And it's 8 pins, so we're all set there. So now we need to look for the 14 pin. Remember, that one was green. All right, so here's the 14 pin. 14 pin DJ7141A-1.2-21 14 pin. It's for 5 of them, $10. There it is. It comes with the terminals. The reason why I'm not using Master or DJ Key or other electronic parts websites is because you're going to have to buy the housing and the terminals separate, and it's hard sometimes to determine what terminals. When you buy from AliExpress, they're going to give you the connector and the terminal. All you need to do is crimp it, and we'll cover the crimper a little bit later on in the video, but that leaves us with one connector left, and that's the camera connector. Alright, for the 7 pin, here it is. It's the DJ7071A-1.2-11. It's 7 pin. And there it is. This is the one that's going to plug into the back of navigation. Those are the pins. So now that you have all the connectors, remember the other 2 aren't used. There's a 4 pin that's not used, and I think the other one's a 18 or 16 pin that isn't used. So now that you have those connectors, actually let me show you the XM connector real quick. Actually, I almost forgot. The 14 pin connector on the bottom is the same 14 pin connector for the XM, so we want to make sure we pick that up as well. It took a while to find, but I found it. It's the 917604-1, and here you can see it. This is what's going to plug into that XM connector and into the bottom of the radio. So, all right, so for the HFL, you're going to need the 22 pin. 22 pin, here's the HFL. 22 pin is going to be ILG-22S-DC301, and here you go. There's both of them. This is the one you're going to need with those pins. And then the last thing you're going to need is that 5 pin connector. So here's the 5 pin. It's the IL-AG5-5S-S3C1, and as you can see, there's the one you need with the pins. Now that we have all the connections that we're going to need, or at least use in this project, the ones we didn't cover is the microphone, where the actual microphone plugs in. I don't know what that connector looks like. And the radio control switch, I don't know what that connector looks like. From what I've heard, when you swap the connector, you have to add 1 pin to the actual connector. So it's missing a pin. I don't know. I don't have the switch. I'm not going to buy the switch. So if you do find out, or if you do know, please leave it in the comments for someone else. This video will serve as a guide, also a discussion for people who want to do this conversion, to ask each other questions or ask me questions from the research that I've done. Alright guys, that covers all the connectors. I'm going to show you just real quick what tool to get to crimp them with, and then we got to talk about wire. Both the tool and the wire are going to come from Amazon. I'll just give you some of my suggestions. Here's the crimper I like to use. I crimp S28 DuPont crimping tool. It has a couple different sizes so that you can get the right crimp. You see it says 28 to 24, 22 to 20, and 20 to 18. So now we just need to grab the right wire. Now I don't buy my wire off Amazon, we buy it from our distributors, but obviously you're not gonna have a distributor, so if you're buying wire, you want primary wire, you want 20 gauge wire, if not lower, so 22 or 24, and you want to have different colors so you don't confuse yourself as you're doing this. So something like this would work, 20 gauge primary automotive wire. This is copper clad, you would want oxygen free, but we're not running a ton of power through this, and this is perfect. You'll have accessory, constant power, ground, illumination, and then other wires you can tie in for other stuff. So I think that's a good choice for you to buy. And then you're gonna need a wire stripper if you don't have a wire stripper. That I'm gonna leave up to you because it's not really a specific tool for this job, it's just a general tool. But now we got everything covered. So you have all the connectors, you now have the crimper to crimp those terminals to those connectors, and now you have the wire. So real quick, I'm just going to show you how to crimp, just give you a quick overview. What a good crimp looks like is like this. You see the insulation is crimped to these outside ring. The inside, this second crimp where my fingernail is now, only has wire. So the way to achieve that is you're gonna take some primary wire, you're gonna cut the length you need. So this is just a test, so here's my length that I need. I'm gonna strip that much, gonna twist it. Now, I'm gonna grab one of the terminals for my connector. So here's my connector. This isn't the exact one you have, similar. Here is my actual terminal. So the outside goes around this big loop, and the actual metal, so the outside insulation goes around this loop, and the inside, the metal, the actual contact, is gonna sit like that. So that's kind of how we want to line this up. The way you use your crimper, this is gonna be on the smallest setting for me. I'm gonna pre-position it in there, and then I'm gonna slide my wire in and through. So that's kind of a good spot, I can see it. Then I'm gonna crimp, and boom, you can see I have the insulation around the right part and the metal around the right part. And now when you go to put these in, depending on the connector you're using, they'll just slide right in, and you'll hear a nice little click. Sometimes you won't, but you know it's in place because it's not coming out. So that's what you're gonna have to do for all those terminals till you make a wire harness connecting everything together. All right, YouTube, we're getting ready to plug everything back in. Here are the connections I was telling you about. So not used, camera connection, and the HFL and the microphone. So you can see I made my own little microphone mount. We'll test it out. This is going to the steering wheel control switch behind the radio. Then we have route guidance plugged in to the back of the radio. We use our T-harness, the Honda Accord T-harness I was telling you about, you're gonna need to get. And then we wired everything up. Then the XM connector that plugs into the bottom of the radio is right here. Again, remember, we didn't choose to hook up the XM unit or the microphone. The HFL switch, I am doing some ghetto thing to make the factory steering wheel controls. So the steering wheel controls are now these. I'm gonna try to make them work with the navigation. When you go to do this, you're actually gonna have to run a wire from here to the new switch that you install. You're gonna have to insert that new wire. But the only connection that has not been done is my CAN bus connections, and then my camera I'm gonna set up in the car. Remember, we did a backup camera video on this car. So the backup camera is right here, it's already installed. This backup camera is also wiretapped to the reverse signal already. So back behind my radio, I have the reverse signal already and the camera wire. So this is gonna go camera wire right here. Reverse signal is going to go to my green wire, which is coming out of here to here. It's not hooked up. And then this purple needs to go to ground. This purple has a 68 ohm resistor. Without this resistor, none of this would work. So this resistor is super important. This is power out to your camera depending on what you're gonna do. I don't recommend using this. I recommend making these two connections right here. the video for your camera, and then this needs to go to ground, otherwise with that resistor, otherwise the video camera won't show up. And then the last thing is here, one of these pins, I think this green wire right here, needs to go to the backup light as well. So we are going to connect that. We already have the wire for the backup light behind the radio. If you need to figure out how to do that, you're basically tapping the reverse light and running a wire all the way to the front. You can check out our backup camera video so you can get that wire back there. So one last time, here are all my connections. The reason why we need that Honda Accord T harness is so that we can wiretap wires. So you see I wiretapped accessory, wiretap ground, wiretap power, without having to do that to any of my factory harnessing. So this is fully removable. As you can see, here it is all out, and you can't even tell that that was in there before. So it's up to you how you want to do this installation. I showed you the gist of it. I showed you all the connectors, all the pins, where all the wires got to hook up together. I know this is crazy messy, but since it's a prototype and it's a test and it's for a video, I'm not going to bother to clean it up. I mean, I have zip ties along the way. I know what is what, but like here I have butt connectors. I wouldn't use those. Here I have tape. I wouldn't use those. Make sure you solder and properly crimp each connection for your install. Check out all the drives that I had to go through to get this to work. You need the navigation drive for a TSX. They all have different part numbers. So this is for an MDX, even though it looks the same. These are all for a TL. You need the right one, otherwise the HC won't work. So here we are. Here's the navigation in diagnostic mode. I am trying to get the mic to come on. I got everything hooked up. Unfortunately, I have a bad HFL. This isn't even the HFL for a TSX, it's for a TL. But I figured it would work. It's bad, it was disconnected in the TL. So I can't show you how the microphone would work, but I did give you all the information on how to make it work. And I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to show you real quick how you can test if yours is working. So you're going to hold map, menu, and cancel. It's going to bring you to this menu. You're going to go into functional setup. You're going to go into mic level. I wired my steering wheel controls so both my controls work. So if I hit mode, it says now recording. And if my mic was working, this would change in level. But since my mic's not working, it doesn't come up. But I did get my steering wheel control switches to work. So even though I don't have the HFL switch, I managed to make these work the navigation, just to give you an overview of what it should look like. And then my disc is loaded. Before I tidy up my wiring and show you what it looks like completed, I want to just show you the back of the connections one more time. So all these are pinned correctly. At some point in the video you might have seen them, they might have been pinned incorrectly. So if you're looking for how they're supposed to be pinned, this is what you want to look at. So camera power, that line that has to have a resistor to ground, the input and outputs, my steering wheel control switch, the microphone in and out, route guidance in and out. This white wire is my reverse wire, and then all of these are for the CAN bus and the RGB sync. So I'm going to clean up all this wiring. I'm going to tuck it away so it can look real nice. So here it is, YouTube. DVD drives right there. You could actually install it here. Alright, there we go. So there it is, baby. Here it is, the final product. The navigation's in, our sub display is in, our navigation drive is down here. So if you wanted to do this, you could put the drive up here and get the doubled in dash kit for below the radio. You'll lose your pocket, but hey, it's a convenient place to put it. And then here it is, fully working. So go to menu, I can go to addresses, I can look up, I can change the state, etc. I can look at my map, I can move my map around. I can then go into info, I can go into the calendar, I can take care of all the things if my navigation system is working. The only thing that does not work correctly, obviously we don't have the HFL switch, but this is the talk button. What time is it?
Please repeat.
So as you can see, it can't hear me. The microphone's not hooked up. What time is it?
Please repeat.
But this works as my back button. So I go info, or let's say I'm in here, right? I'm in this. I can go cancel or back, and it's gonna bring me back. If I go to menu, actually I want to go to setup. Let me lower this. Voice command help. Want it to read the list to me.
Display menu, display navigation, display map, display map guide, display.
So right now it's giving me all the navigation commands. If I would have hooked up my microphone, I could give these commands to the navigation.
What time is it? Repeat.
I could give it to the navigation, and I could get the navigation to do things. But here it is, fully working. Oh, let me show you one of the things you probably want to see the most, which is the backup camera. So I'm in reverse. I have the backup camera installed. You can see it comes right up. I'm going to switch back to neutral, and I'm back if I was just driving. So you can use your AC, you can use the radio. If you wanted to do this, this is how you would do it in the cheapest way possible. There was a guy who used to make harnesses for this, and there was even a guy who would fly out and install it for you. I don't know what happened to them. Maybe try reaching out to them if you don't want to do it yourself. This is a very interesting project, but not necessary, because for the features that you're looking for, you can get more features from an aftermarket radio or that Android screen than having to do this. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was informational. I'm going to show you one bonus thing, so stick around. I'm going to put something else on this screen. So if your navigation's dead, you're going to stick around to see this. Alright, so if your navigation doesn't work, or it says please check disk, you can use this little green box right here to send the output of an aftermarket radio or another display straight to the factory screen. So here, let me show you. So here's the display of this radio. So if I hit this, you see it's changing up there. If I go home, it's going to change up there. So this output on this screen is via this green box. The green box hooks up where the navigation goes. You can see it would be via this connector. Here are my connections, and it needs power and ground. This green box is perfect to do what I just showed you with the factory radio. You can also add an aftermarket backup camera to the factory radio. A 2004 or 2005, 2006 TSX that doesn't have that extra input, you can use this green box. Also, if it says please check this, you can use this green box. Now let me show you the box and let me tell you a little bit about it. So this green box is made by a company called Converters.tv. Here's their information. Basically what it does is it intercepts RGBS signal. So here is RGBS in, and then this is RGBS out. So you can see two separate connectors. Then it has power and ground, has a switch for when you want to intercept RGBS, or you can intercept RGBS with one of these control wires, and then it has two video inputs, and then on this side it has a brightness controller. So this box, a lot of companies have their own version. Converters.tv seems to be the original manufacturer of everyone else's box. So if your navigation doesn't work, this is an option that you may have to get something on that display other than please check this. I'm gonna wrap up this video. If you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. This took so much time and research. It's been a span of like 3 or 4 weeks. So if you give the video a like, I'd appreciate that. If you could share the video with someone else in the TSX community, I appreciate that a lot. And if you're looking for any accessories for your TSX to change the radio, add new speakers, add amplifiers, all that stuff you can find on our website, Acura Audio Garage. We have everything for this TSX. We have all the videos covering it. The last piece of the puzzle is going to be the 6-channel amp. We're going to be filming that later this week. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.